So choose your track. There are three parallel tracks right now. Here at track one, we have Tamara Letic. She works as an employee experience manager at the Microsoft Development Center in Serbia. She joined the center in 2011 when it had about 50 people, and now the center has more than 300 employees. She is one of the creators of the event Girls in ICT, which is being held at Microsoft for the sixth year in a row as a form of empowering and informing students about careers in the IT world with the aim of increasing the number of women in the IT industry. Tamara leads a team which deals with the experience of employees in the workplace, which covers administration, infrastructure, organization of joint activities, as well as employee development. Welcome.
Hi, Jovana. Thank you. Uh, Hi, everyone. Okay, so thank you for the intro. No need for me to introduce myself. So I will introduce the topic for today. And before I do that, if I do this right, this would mean that we will have some time for Q&A. So please, any comments, any questions, please just shoot them because it's rather difficult not to be able to see the audience and to see whether this actually makes any sense to you. Okay, my talk today is about empowered leaders. Program that we developed some 5 years ago through coaching technique. And why the program? What problem were we trying to solve? Uh, the, what we were trying to solve really was to answer the questions that I'm sure that everyone in the audience, if you are working in HR, but also if you're working with people, try to answer. And that's how do we grow leaders? How do we make sure that we keep up with the fast growth of our organization by having strong leaders to support that? So that was the thing that we were struggling with 5 years ago, and we still are growing. And it was important for us to use all the means available to address this challenge, because when people transition from the individual contributor role to the role of a people manager, the shift and the impact changes a lot. So basically, in our case, most of the people that became leaders were already working in the company as individual contributors. So they were making this shift from developing the code to developing people. So aside from all the trainings available already in Microsoft for managers, we came up with something that was more of a custom made, and it was based on coaching. Okay, and before I address the program itself, I just want to pause for a second to address some of the challenges that I believe are rather universal. So the universal unknowns that I think that you all will be able to relate with, regardless of the industry you're in, or whether your organization is big or small. And the first thing that was a challenge was whether our employees that we were designing this program for, whether they will actually make the time to attend it. So if the program is great, it doesn't really matter if people do not dedicate time to attend it. And the second thing was, even if they do, there was another requirement for this to even remotely be successful, and that's whether they will be motivated to do the work. And this motivation is something that you cannot really pay for. You can bring the best coach if you have the resources, if you have the budget, but you cannot really pay people to feel motivated and to be motivated to do the heavy lifting. And the heavy lifting part is really you do the work to improve yourself. And the last thing that was a big unknown is actually the uncontrollable outcome. When you work with people, you can have all the possible scenarios, but in reality, you really don't know what the outcome is going to be. You can do your best and hope for the best. And just to illustrate this one, I will share with you an example with this first pilot group of the managers that we had this program with. My colleague, who was on this group, and he's an amazing individual. He was sharing his feedback about the program after program finished, and it took some months for the program to finish. And he said, I was really reluctant to do this at the very beginning. It didn't sound to me that I will actually benefit from it, but I'm really happy that I did. It was eye opening to me. And I was like, this was the first, the pilot group, and I was like thinking already in my head, yes, we nailed this. It's great. This is great feedback. And then he said, and thank you for this opportunity because it helped me realize I don't want to be the leader. I want to go back and develop code. That's what I love to do. So then, 5 years ago, for me personally, that was like total failure. Like, this is a pilot group, and we did it, and the person doesn't want to be the leader, and the program was empower the leaders, not decrease the number of leaders. But in retrospect, it was a success, but it was just formed in a shape that I, for sure, could not recognize at the beginning. Okay, so I keep mentioning the program. So what was the program about? So it was designed for people managers to help them address the challenges of this new role for them by attending both individual coaching sessions with external coach and also group sessions among themselves and the coach too, and to do that in the course of 6 months. At the very beginning, they would all write down and think about what their own individual goals were. So these goals were to be addressed during the coaching sessions. And so far, we've had 7 iterations, 7 different groups of people. And why I'm saying this, it's because with each iteration and with each individual and with each group, we learned something through either our failure or some of the successes. So the program evolved, and it still evolves. Okay. And here's a bit more detail about the process around the program and the steps as well. I will share some lessons that we learned along the way, again through failure and success. So the first part was about sharing the program, meaning communicating that with the potential attendees. And the first part that was really crucial was the way it was done. And it was done by asking questions. So this pilot group of potential attendees, they were in a way, they were co-creators of the program itself because they asked a lot of questions also, and us trying to respond to the questions actually helped us improve the framework. One of the questions was, how will I measure this really? I attend some coaching sessions and we talk and talk, and at the end, how will I know whether I'm good, whether I improved or not? And as at the beginning, this was originally designed just as additional tool for managers to have coaching sessions where they can discuss things. But these questions helped us address the actual tracking of the success. So we introduced a bit more firm framework, and also we asked questions as well. So it was a interactive process along the way. And with the second group, after this first one was finished, this communicating the program, I would say it was a failure. And why is that? Why I say that now? At the time, I could not see that at all. So we had this first group, and it was successful. And then with the second group, the potential attendees, I would share with them the program, saying, this is the Empowered Leaders program, this is the framework, this is what it does, and you should apply. And the reason why it was wrong is that aside from that being rather conceited approach, like this is the solution, um, it was the thing that we were proposing solution and we didn't know what the problem was, so we didn't really listen. So the the lesson for this part was, don't come with a solution because you don't know what the problem is. Listen, ask questions, and these questions should be open-ended questions, like what are the recurring topics that you have with your manager that you think that should improve? What are the recurring topics with your reports? What are the patterns in your behavior that you see that you think should change? Or what is the feedback of your manager for your next level? What is the gap that you think should be filled? Open-ended questions, and based on the input, you can you can provide a proposal for a solution, and also accept that it may not be a solution. That's also a lesson I learned. So what do you think that happened with this? I didn't know at the beginning, so I shared this and people applied, so they decided to dedicate time, and things looked they're doing everything's fine. But in this third step, the coaching sessions, when they took place, all of a sudden I was having canceled sessions at very short notice. Like 2 of 5 people would say, oh, something urgent came up and I really cannot attend. And this was happening. It was not an isolated case. And when I put things into perspective now, I would say that they were not really motivated. And why is that? Because I really didn't listen. I was providing the solution before listening. So this was the lesson for me, for sure. Okay, and the next step in the program was, once people learn about it and they say they will attend, the next thing for them was to set their own goals. And they would do that by doing reflection on their own performance, on the issues that may have been happening. Also based on the feedback of their manager as well, and they would need to write down these goals. But the lessons in this area I will share a bit later in the process with this last step, which is the results and feedback. Okay, so there's this third part, the coaching sessions, and they take up the most of the time. It takes on for several months. And what do you think that my job was during this period? It was basically to do nothing. My job during this period was to make sure that the sessions took place and to pay for the invoice. That's all. No reporting back on how it's going, no reports to the managers. And why am I sharing this with you? Because I learned after several iterations that it's super important that you share with the participants at the very beginning in this share the program part, that you share with them what is confidential and what is transparent. Because people need to have trust in the process, and in order for them to have trust, they really need to know uh, what is off limits. So these sessions, whatever was taking place, whatever was discussed, that was off limits. I didn't know what they were discussing. Their manager didn't know what was discussing. Everything, everything that we knew was that they took place, and that's all. And we paid for the invoice. So it's important to stress that the transparent part is your goal, and that the group will know about it, the coach, myself, and your manager, and your manager needs to agree with it. Okay, so this thing with the trust is a tricky one, because it appears in each of these steps, and it takes some time to build it, and it takes a very short period of time to break it. So that's something that I always take into consideration when doing these type of things. Okay, so the coaching sessions ended, and so it means several months passed, and as said, all we know is that they happened, and we don't know whether they made any progress or not. And the last part is when this is done, the attendees, they would need to do the self-assessment written. And this self-assessment, it's not a typical survey of a type, what do you think, what do you think, to what extent this program was beneficial to you. It was more of a reflection, their own reflection on their own progress in relation to their goals, their comments about the program, and also their view on the program itself, and what things may or could change. And they were supposed to do that, to write that down. And in this first phase, where they would set the goals, they would also need to write down these goals, and they would need to share these goals with their peers, with their manager, with their reports. And then with this self assessment, they would also need to ask, again in written, their manager, their peers, and their reports about their own view, feedback on to what extent and whether they made progress on the goal. And this did take place with the first group, and people were disciplined to do it. But afterwards, I realized it was not realistic. It was too much to ask for, as people don't have endless time to do it. So the lesson that I learned in this part was that you really need to keep the essentials only, like to know what the requirements are and to stick to it, and to put everything else in the recommendations sections. And it really is great for people to share with their immediate team what they will be working on, so that people that work with them can provide feedback, not in written only, but also during work. But that's something that I realized that you cannot really insist on this much of a framework, rather to stick to these essentials. And the essentials were, and they still are, to set your goal, your individual developmental goal, to agree on this goal with your manager, and also to do the self-assessment at the end, and for manager to provide feedback. Because for us, this was the measurement of whether the program was any good. And the last part is related to again, how did we share the program, or should I say advertise the program. And what I did with the several last groups is using the self assessments that people wrote, and transforming them in testimonials. And why was that? Because uh, people can better relate if they know their colleagues who already attended, what their personal experience was, what they said about the program. Um, and in addition, uh, I just didn't use the testimonials or the self assessment and transform them into testimonials and shared without asking for approval. Again, it's really all about the trust. So So I asked for explicit approval of people involved, asking whether I could use their self-assessment and some of the sentences to share that with some broader audience in our organizations, and they agreed to it. And I assumed that they would agree, but I didn't want to take any chances because, as said, trust is easily broken, and is really key to this type of personal development. Okay, and here you can see some of the testimonials, some of the reflections of people that attended, and these ones were actually from the last group that we had that started sometime in February, and in March. All of you know what happened, well, in Serbia in relation to COVID-19. So we had to decide whether we're gonna just cancel everything or transform it to do it online. And we did it online, and they continued with the whole thing because they were motivated enough. So just switching to a different format of discussion, online versus in person, did not really matter that much. And when I was thinking how to close this talk, uh, the solution came to me unannounced, and that was 2 weeks ago. I received an email from my colleague, software developer, and I don't know him in person, so we don't know each other. He sent me an email saying, "Hey, I learned about this coaching program that you have. My team members told me about it, and I want to do psychotherapy. So can you please give me contact of this coach?" I was amazed. I was surprised as well. I mean, how likely is something like this to happen in your organization? For me, it was like, wow, he doesn't know me in person. We don't know each other, and he was open enough to ask for this, uh, and I was very happy to help. Of course, just to be 100% clear, psychotherapy and coaching are two different things, and they have different contexts, and they have different goals. But in essence, why I'm sharing this is that any type of communicating this, well, nothing beats word of mouth. And you don't really control what people talk. They will talk, even if it's bad. They will talk. If it's good, they will also talk. So this one for me was just a moment for me to pause and just to be well, just to celebrate a success.